Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to another Terraria coding session. I'm your host, Strange Bro Jim, and we're going to continue our study of the um, Terraria mod coding, and we'll continue working towards our user interface. Again, um, we're you know, I have some concerns whether or not I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. Um, um, Let me see if I can kind of write down the concerns that I have here. Let's see. Um, Here, matter of fact, let me try to put um, let me try to put this into its own text file here. And then see if I can show um, that we can't do another instance. Yeah, let me see if I can maybe save it for right now. Let's see. Um, okay. Let's see. Terraria Mod. There we go. And let me see. Can I can move to a new instance. It just needed me to um, save it. Okay. Now, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get this to kind of work properly here. Um, let's see. We want a window capture. Oh, okay. That'll work. All right. Let me make sure that it's in the right spot so the camera can view and be viewable as well. Stretch it to screen, and there we go. Okay, I'll go ahead and transition now. All right, what are some of the concerns that I have? What am I going to be kind of facing when I'm doing this, right? Um, you know, uh, Obviously, one of the first things that I'm probably going to need to kind of worry about is how am I going to show all of the potential builds for each material? You know, um, because when you have a um, when you have an item that has like 100 different potential builds that it can make, then that's going to be taking up a lot of viewing space on the page, right? So like how am I going to necessarily show it? There's going to be a lot of um, you know like one of the kind of sub concerns is um, could have overlap in the user interface, for different um, different materials. So, for example, like if I put in the if am I going to be showing you know all the all the potential builds, you know, all the potential items from it, in a sense that like if I put in, you know, the wood, if I put in the gel, will both of them still be shown on the tech tree after the fact? Like, can I open up the tech tree and suddenly, both of them are still there? And be able to kind of see what was made from those items, or would I have to do very very similar to what the crafting for the guide is all about, where I put in the item in that particular box and um, it brings up the material, the builds from said material, right? So I have to figure that part out, because when you have like like wood has multiple different potential builds that it can do, that it can be used for, that's going to take up a lot of visual space, no matter what. Okay. The fact that the guide himself, when there's too much on screen, it allows for scrolling. You know, now it doesn't necessarily show the scrolling, which is a little weird. You would think that they should show the scroll bar at the very least, but they don't necessarily do that. Um, um, it's still one of those things where it's like, okay, well, um, we're gonna have some difficulty along those lines. So, um, in that, um, if I'm gonna have like if I'm gonna show like the entire tree or the entire tech tree or something like that, or make it viewable, then how am I gonna show that off? How am I gonna visually show not only the root but the branches of what it can be built and what was used to build it? If there was such a thing that was used to build that particular item, right? Um, Now, obviously, when it comes to like a piece of wood or something like that, then obviously that doesn't really, you're not going to necessarily have anything that makes a piece of wood. Um, Well, I mean, there might be some things that can be changed back into a piece of wood, like the platforms. But I mean, that's really not much in terms of it all, right? Um, so, but I mean, there's still a potential branch to the left of it as well. You know, you have your main tree, and then you have your branches, and then you have your roots, and that could be huge in both directions. Okay, so um, so how am I going to get the information on what made that material? Okay, that's another thing that I'm not quite sure about. You know what I can do in order to get the um, what how am I going to be able to kind of see you know uh, what made the item when I put that and when you put an item into the guide, that guides field into the crafting field, it shows what it can make, but we're not necessarily finding what can make it, the item that we put into that particular crafting field, right? So we don't really know. So that's something that I'm gonna have to kind of contend with. If I'm if I'm gonna try to show, you know, all the previous items that was used in order to make said like weapon, then I'm gonna need to know the the pathing, you know, the overall root system of what led to that particular item. And that's gonna be kind of that might be a little difficult. Again, I'm not sure how to go about doing that yet. So we're gonna have to kind of contend with that, right? Um, three. How will I know when an item has been built? Okay. Um, Now obviously this kind of falls more on the multiplayer side of things, um, uh, but here's the thing. Um, like if I was to say like, hey, um, well let me show you. Let me try to show you here. Okay. Um, Let me go to the let me. Oh, I forgot to start up the Tmall loader. Let me get there. All right. So all right. Oh god damn it! Once again, we have our controller causing a problem here. No, stop. Go away. Thank you. Okay. Workshop, manage. Yeah, we just got those two. That's fine. Okay, so let's get into our little testing world that we have, right? So, you know, well, okay, so, one of the things that I want to try to do is let's try to create something that might be, we have some wood, so we can try to craft something that might be like another material from it, right? Here we go. Let's craft this fence, right? Okay, so it's a material for something else, okay? So I go to crafting and I put in some wood. Matter of fact, it was palm wood that I used. And obviously I can see like, here's everything that the palm wood can make, right? Now, if I'm doing a tech tree kind of style to it, then I would want to kind of like highlight like what items I've made and what items I have not made, right? You know, like for example, if I want like this entire screen kind of hidden from me, like, hey, I don't know what item. I mean, I can still always go back to the guide and kind of see everything that, you can potentially make from it. But, if you want to just use um, the tech tree and stuff like that, then, I can try to hide everything that, hasn't been made by me. But here's the question. How I know whether or not I've made that particular item, right? Um, you know, I just made the fence here, so like I can put the fence in there, and I can show like oh hey yeah, the only thing that it turns right back into is the palm wood, you know, so that's a little weird that not only do you have the wood that can make the fence, but the fence can be made right back into the wood, so you pretty much have an infinite loop there. For the most part, right? Um, but that's the thing is that how will I know if I've made that fence? Is there some form of like notification that I can use that will tell me that this particular fence has been built, has been made, so that I can kind of use it, in the tech tree. I don't know. That's my problem. I'm not 100% sure about that, right? So so when I go back here to my little notepad here, um, and um, you know, I look at how I know if something's been built or not. I have nothing to say along those lines. I don't really know 100% one way or another as to, you know when an item has been built. I need to know that because um, if I don't know if an item has been built, then I can't necessarily show um, I can't necessarily show past builds if I don't really know if it's been actually built or not, right? And I can't necessarily show If the person doesn't necessarily want to see everything that could potentially be built with said item, then I don't necessarily want to show them all that information either, right? You know, if I want to hide some, if I want to hide that information from them, if they want that information hidden as to what everything that that particular weapon can potentially be built into, which again doesn't necessarily make that much sense. You can pretty much go to the guide and see everything that they can, see what it can be built anyway, right? Um, but maybe, just maybe, they want to use more of the tech tree over the guide. Let's just say that they want to do it that way. They want to make it, maybe add a little bit more difficulty onto their playthrough. They load my mod up and they use it instead of the guide. Like they don't want to even go to the guide to try to look up any information on how to go about building something, right? Um, a little bit of a tough call on that one, but I mean, if they want to make things a little bit more difficult with them, I mean, who am I to say, right? Um, so I need to be able to kind of hide that information from them and show what has and has not been built. So, um, so I need to know, if an item has been built and whether or not that's actually possible. If I can see that, if I know when an item has been built and stuff like that, and then I can kind of update the tech tree on that bit of information, and then use it to show to the player afterwards when they want to go back to the tech tree and look things up, right? But um, but if I can't, then this is going to be pretty much a dead project for the most part. You know, I don't think there's going to be any way for me to really show. There won't be a way for me to show or to hide. You know, if I don't know when an item has been built, I won't be able to hide. Um, you know, the I won't be able to hide the other projects that haven't been constructed yet. Okay, there would be no way for me to hide it. Okay, so um, so I look at this and go, okay, well, um, you know, if there is no way to know, then I can't hide um, what hasn't been built. Okay. Um, you know, so that's one of the dangers of that, right? Um, so um, you know, um, uh, so here's the other problem with this one is like, um, if I can't find a simple solution on what made the item, then I can't show um, the roots that was used to make it. So, um, so yeah, we're looking at all the potential problems on this one, right? Um, um, you know, bigger problem if I extend this to multiplayer. You know, what happens if, multiplayer makes that said item? How am I supposed to show that information? You know, is it going to be focused purely on client? Is all the multiplayer information going to get updated from it? You know, Meaning that, am I going to need to kind of have it, um, you know, like as soon as the world gets created, the tech tree is built, and then everybody that builds something, affects that particular information. So it's more aligned with the world and not necessarily the client. Am I gonna have to do something along those lines? So, um, um, you know, um, another problem is, um, how can I make finding recipes, um, um, you know, like the guide can do for other mods if I want to make this dynamic. Where, how's the guide getting his information? So I'm gonna need to figure out, what the guide looks at. Okay, because clearly, mods like Calamity, they use the guide to be able to, for you to kind of look up how to go about um, you know, building other recipes and so on and so forth. Like, a lot of people allow for the guide to be able to see other recipes, or maybe it's not even um, maybe it's not even something that the modders do. Maybe it's something that's already kind of built into the system. Like, um, when you say that you're uploading the recipe into the full-on system, maybe the guide already knows, that particular recipe. And if so, where is it pulling that information from, right? And if I can find that, then that would be um, then that will allow for me to be able to, show, everything that that particular item can make, right? I can then kind of build the branches off from there a little bit more. Okay. Um, um, so problem is, can I make this work in the reverse for the roots and not just the branches? Um, Meaning, yeah, I can see everything that that item can make, you know, looking at the recipe that, it's associated with, but can I see what potentially could make that particular item using a similar method? Can I go about doing that? Um, Not sure. We'll have to kind of see about that, right? Um, so, um, what else could potentially be a problem? Um, I mean, I've already kind of shown, I'm gonna have some difficulties with the visuals. I'm gonna make sure that the trees and the branches and the roots and stuff like that, um, do I do it one at a time or do I show the entire tech tree? You know, how do I go about doing that, right? Um, so basically, this kind of a B part here, um, show all the items slash materials or only one that was selected by the client. You know, what's what do I need to do on that one, right? Okay. Next, another problem that I need to face. Um, what information do I store? You know, um, how do I go about storing the user, the tech tree? Um, how do I store the entire tech tree? I don't know. That's the problem. There might be a lot of information that I might need to deal with, right? Um, because if I'm needing to, I mean, I'm gonna need to kind of store all the information one way or another, right? Because if the user shuts down the game and comes right back in, I don't necessarily want them going, oh, hey, I built this, one weapon late game. And I want to see everything that, it was used to actually make it. Oh, wait, I can't see that anymore, right? That doesn't work. I need to be able to show that information, when, um, you know, um, if the game closes down, um, I need to be able to show the tech tree again when it reloads. Um, so yeah. Um, so not only do I need to show, need to be able to save the information and what information is saved, but I need to actually, be able to reload that information right back out again so that, um, so that they can continue using the tech tree after they reload the game. Okay? So, Um, so that's obviously kind of a concern along those lines. Um, and yes, I still haven't really gone through my past videos and looked at, what, you know, what idea I was thinking about. I still need to do that. Unless someone else can remind me of what I was kind of thinking about. I don't know. Let's see. What else could be potential problems? Um, um, what am I gonna need to figure out here? What else? What else am I gonna need to try to tackle? Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll just kind of leave it at that for right now. I mean, if something comes to me, then I always have this to kind of fall back on. But for now, we'll just kind of leave it at that. Um, so, um, let's see. Okay, pardon me. I need to do something here real quick. I just noticed the fact that I do not have uh, that much room left on my hard drive from the looks of it, so I need to consider transferring some files over. So obviously that might take a while, and um, but hopefully that doesn't necessarily slow down my overall stream, but okay. Okay. Let's go into assets here. Again, you know, I don't know if I'm really going to be needing to deal too much with this, but I might. Again, I might be using um uh you know, I'm probably gonna try. I'm not an artist, okay, so I'm probably gonna try to reuse art from what other people have done. So in T-Mod Loader, we use the asset class to work with assets such as textures, shaders, fonts, and sounds. The asset and asset repository classes provide on-demand loading, resource pack support. This guide shows how to work with the asset system for optimal performance and compatibility. Various best practices. Store the asset reference not to contain data class. Preload textures. Avoid requesting assets every frame. I mean, that makes sense. Um, Avoid using immediate load. Retrieving requesting assets. Assets contained in a mod. Assets from tray and other mods. Asset load timing. Preloading assets. On-demand asset loading. Server considerations. Asset request mode. Um, As a demonstration, here's a mod loading hundreds of item textures during gameplay. When using async load, the scrolling is smooth and item textures appear as they are loading. When using immediate load, the scrolling is interrupted and the frame rate of the game suffers as the game spends time waiting for textures to load. This is an extreme example as it is loading hundreds of item textures at once. For normal modded content, the textures loading in will be much less noticeable. Okay, good to know that, you know, obviously probably gonna need to worry about that, you know, so, um, but again, probably not something that that I'm gonna be worrying about, like, well, I'm still gonna need to kind of worry about it immediately anyway. If I want to kind of show the tech tree, I'm gonna need to be able to do the, async load to show um, all the items, um, but we'll need to kind of deal with that, you know, at another time. You know, like I don't necessarily want this to be, um, I'm gonna need to get back to this. Let me just put it this way. I'm gonna need to kind of make it back here to look into this anyway to be able to kind of be able to look at all the information and pull the information and use said information. But at the same time, um, I'm gonna need to um, like really kind of look into, okay, well, how am I gonna do the async load because they're not necessarily showing information about the async load either. So, you know, so I need to kind of look into that a little bit more. So, and, um, we'll need to find out like where we're pulling the items from anyway, right? So right now we're not there yet. Okay. I need to figure out where I can. Um, much like I said before, I need to figure out where the guy gets his information from, how he's able to see the recipes, so I can basically utilize that. You know, in a sense, I'm gonna be kind of copying that for the most part. To kind of make this work the way I kind of want it to work. But obviously, I'll be needing to kind of change it. You know, so I'm basically going to be taking the guide and kind of tweaking the guide into something more. So at least that's the idea behind it. But assets will have to kind of wait for now. We'll need to kind of go back there at a later time, but for right now, we'll just kind of need to wait. Okay, so um, yeah, let's go ahead and go into the advanced guide prereqs and see what else we got here. Um, if you haven't already, now's the time to explore the capabilities of your IDE. Please see the why use an IDE guide. I'm already kind of doing that, so no big deal on that. You may need to decompile TMod loader to understand the correct way to do something or to figure out the recommended approach to what you are doing. Anyone attempting to do advanced level guides probably needs their own copy of decompiled tmodloader.dll. Oh wait, I found the code on Google. No, that code is bad and will not work. Tens of thousands of decompilation errors, but decompile it yourself. It is easy. Read on. Simple way. Simpler way to download a recent release of ILSpy. These instructions last tested with ILSpy 6.2.1. Click Assets and download the zip with binaries in its name. Unzip it in a folder. Launch ilspy.exe. If you're on Linux or Mac, you will use the Avalonia ILSpy instead of ILSpy. The following instructions should be mostly the same. Okay, so um, I mean, on one hand, it's like, okay, you know, decompiling the tmod loader so that I can have access to see what the tmod loader can do is pretty decent. Um, my only concern with that is that if I need to make a change to tmod loader to kind of get my code to kind of work, how am I going to go about doing that? And will that cause problems for, other mods that might necessarily need, you know, that code to be there in tmod loader, right? Or, like if I need to like kind of remove one function or something like that that's causing problems to my code and I remove it, then suddenly it messes up all the other, mods that are out there because it might actually use said function. So it's one of those things where it's like it can be kind of dangerous if you're not careful, right? Um, so obviously I would want to try to um, set it up in such a way where I won't necessarily need to decompile tmod loader and mess with it and adjust it and stuff like that. And even then, um, you know, again, I don't necessarily, um, I don't really think that there's really any necessity to go about doing that. I feel like I should be able to get this mod to work without the need of having to decompile tmod loader to get it to work. You get what I'm saying? Um, so that's all. Um, or at least one would hope. We'll see. Um, but I don't necessarily want to try to do that yet. So advanced angular velocity and linear velocity don't really care about this. We're not really going to worry too much about this because we are not using it for our um, um, for our tech tree. There's no need for angular velocity, um, you know, or linear velocity or anything along those lines anywhere in our user interface, so we can just go ahead and ignore it. This one is probably going to be the best one out of the bunch that I'm probably going to be needing to look at, and well, there's a lot here. Okay. Um, I have a funny feeling that we're gonna need to um, we're probably gonna need to really you know don't get me wrong, a lot of this is useful and helpful, and we're definitely gonna want to kind of consider um, chewing through a lot of this information. And to be honest, I don't think there's really anything else in the advanced that I'm really um, uh, well, I mean, maybe, but I'm definitely gonna need to kind of go back to this anyway. So, um, not sure what this is all about. Um, okay, this might be quite useful, you know, to make sure that we are working with what they need us to kind of work with. You know, for example, they're like, hey, we have a load and unload, you know, function. Oh, that's great. What do we actually put into unload? What do we put into load? That kind of thing. So we'll need to be careful with that. You know, so we don't have something going on here. So I feel like we're definitely going to be using the advanced guides quite a bit in order um, to kind of work through this. So, um, obtaining vanilla source code. It is against the law to publish the decompiled source code, but anyone with a competent computer can decompile their personal copy of Terraria.exe, no problem. Note that you may wish to end up with a decompiled tmod loader rather than a decompiled vanilla Terraria so that you know where tmod loader hooks are. See advanced prerequisites for more info on how to decompile tmod loader. For adaptation purposes, it might be easier to do via the simple way because it creates this throw damage instead of throw damage la la. help master replace this in base with player. The model loader setup doesn't do that. After you have a copy of the source, open the Terraria project file so you can easily search the whole project. Armor effects, Ninja Shirt. Simple example of investigating vanilla code is figuring out how vanilla armor and accessories achieve their special effects. For this example, we want to know how Ninja Shirt increases throwing damage by 15%. Follow along for whatever effect you're interested in. First step is to find the item ID. Searching item ID.cs, you'll find where Ninja Shirt is defined. We now must search the entire project for 257 using quick find tool. Don't mistakes. Set match whole word here to limit results. In the results, you see many references to 257. Just now trim down the results to find the relevant results. You find the result in item set defaults 1, setting the default values for the result, but this code isn't responsible for the throwing damage bonus, so we must continue searching. Down the list of results, you find the skip results in npc.cs, as those probably relate to whatever C ID is equal to 256, not the item ID. Player.cs. Bingo, this looks right. Now we want to bring this code into our mod items code. First, override the updated accessories hook in your mod item class. Next, paste the code in. Accessory effect, magma stone. And the code is setting a boolean field in player object. Player mod. Now we investigate this magma stone variable rather than searching the code using the find menu. This time we use the find all reference feature in Visual Studio. This guy teaches you how to adapt vanilla AI code for new uses. In beginner level coding, we sometimes use vanilla AI styles for our mod projects or mod NPC. In intermediate level coding, we take this a step further by setting AI type to mimic the specific of an AI style, and even use post AI or pre AI to add additional code to vanilla AI styles for a particular thing. It's not always enough, so in this tutorial we will learn how to investigate vanilla source code to find the information or code snippets we need to completely customize the things in our mod. Shadow beam. Weird that we have go to. That's a little scary, because GoTo's been known to be introduce a lot of spaghetti code, so okay. See. Custom flail, tile. Okay. Um, Obviously they didn't address, um, um, the particular information that I'm specifically looking for, but let's face it, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has kind of looked into trying to do something like what I'm gonna attempt. So, or maybe they have, and who knows? Um, um, okay, I don't think we really need to worry too much about detours or anything along those lines. So, I don't know if we need to worry about that. World generation, don't really care about that. Um, Collection, don't really know if we need to worry about that right at this moment in time. So, um, yeah, I don't think there's really anything else that I can kind of see here. So, um, okay. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with this particular tutorial guide right at this moment in time. I think we're at that stage where I'll probably start trying to figure out how to go about, starting a basic UI, using the advanced custom UI guide here to kind of start, building something, um, because we need to, first get ourselves a button, you know, that allows for it to be clicked, first off. We also need to be able to, um, um, you know, be able to bring up like basically a blank canvas, be able to show and in a sense kind of be able to show what if we put an item in the crafting slot for the guide, you know, basically something that the guide can kind of show, right? We need to really kind of look for how the guide gets his information, which is going to kind of require a bit of a search to try to do that. So, I don't necessarily want to. I mean, obviously they mentioned like, hey, if you want to, you can decompile T-modeler. Hey, you can decompile Terraria itself, and it's like, I'd rather not do that unless I absolutely have to. If there's a way for me to kind of, kind of use the code that the guide has, to kind of generate that screen, then I would like to just kind of be able to get a hold of it and repurpose it for what I'm looking for. But obviously, that might be a little harder said than done. So, but that's going to be it for today's Terraria modding. We're going to go ahead and stop here. Um, we'll start working on um, the actual code for it tomorrow. I feel like we can start working on it, and then we'll kind of build from there and see see what I can do, you know, and hopefully not destroy Terraria and T-Mod Loader. um, that's the scary part. I don't necessarily want to destroy. Um, don't necessarily want to destroy my copies or anything along those lines. So, um, yeah, we'll have to we'll see what we can do with it. Now, obviously, Tmod Loader has a method on where we can um, we can develop additional mods, right? We can create a new mod and start you know building it and using it and so on and so forth and go from there. Um, Now, obviously, you know, I'm definitely not going to be publishing it. That would be absolutely stupid. Um, at least, not for this tutorial mod that I was doing as like a test bed. But, um, you know, so we kind of have the basics down. Now it's just a matter of trying to start looking into how to go about building everything that I need to build, which will take a little bit of time to try to figure out. So, and hopefully, all things considered, um, I can find what I need to use to build to kind of show the intended results. Now, at at that particular stage, I'm probably going to be like looking for others to kind of step in and say like, hey, um, you know, if you want to do it this way, you might want to consider doing it this way or something like that. I'm always, um, I have no problem with, um, um, constructive criticism. I'm open to people that are willing to, in a sense, mentor. Um, but right now, obviously, if I want to learn, I'm gonna need to work on it. So I don't necessarily want someone to build it for me. That's not the point of this particular project. Um, on one hand, the point of the project is to make the mod and publish it, right? But the other half of it is to learn more about C sharp and how to code with it, you know. And you know, if I can show like, hey, this is something that I created, I can put it up on GitHub and basically say, hey, this is something that I made, you know. So, um, so yeah. Um, so we'll kind of leave it at that. But that's going to be it for today's um, Terraria modding study session. So look forward to um, the mod starting to be built in the next day or two, and we'll go from there. But I want to thank everybody for stepping on by and chatting with me. I appreciate it. I want to thank anybody that was just kind of lurking in the background. Um, hopefully you had a good time. Check out the description for multiple links that are down there, such as Discord, Patreon, Throne, as well as Team Robot's application page are down there. So check that out if you want. A like and subscribe would be fantastic if you're so inclined. Um, also, um, check out the rest of my playlists. Coding streams and so on and so forth. All the VODs that are out there. And check those out if you'd like. But that's going to be it for tonight. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully I catch you next time. But until then, take care, have a good night, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you strangers next time. And stop being recorded.